The salvage run. The debris field stretched endlessly before Sarah Chen's viewport, a graveyard of forgotten vessels and abandoned dreams floating in the cold embrace of deep space. Her ship, the Patchwork Princess, drifted silently among the wreckage, its sensors probing the darkness for anything worth salvaging. The Princess wasn't pretty. Its hull was a mismatched collection of salvaged plates and jury-rigged systems. But it was home. Sarah watched the holographic display flicker to life above her console, her dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of sensor data. At 32, she'd spent more time alone in space than she had on Earth, and that suited her just fine. Out here, engineering problems were simple. Either something worked, or it didn't. No politics, no bureaucracy, just the pure challenge of making broken things work again. The sensors pinged, drawing her attention to a particular piece of debris. "Well, hello there," she murmured, leaning forward. The object was small, maybe the size of a cargo container, but its composition was unlike anything she'd seen before. The Princess's scans couldn't make sense of it. The readings kept shifting, as if the object's very nature refused to be defined. Sarah engaged the ship's maneuvering thrusters, carefully positioning the Princess alongside the mysterious artifact. Through the viewport, she could see it clearly now, a hexagonal object covered in intricate patterns that seemed to move when she wasn't looking directly at them. It was definitely not human technology. "AI, what do you make of this?" she asked her ship's AI companion, a system she'd cobbled together from salvaged quantum processors and her own experimental code. "Analysis inconclusive," AI responded, her voice carrying the slight static that Sarah had never managed to eliminate. "Material composition appears to be in constant flux. Energy signatures present, but erratic. Caution advised." Sarah grinned. When has caution advised ever stopped us? She activated the cargo retrieval system, extending the Princess's magnetic grapples toward the object. As they made contact, her ship's systems suddenly flickered, and for a moment, every display in the cockpit went dark. "Unexpected power surge detected," AI announced as the systems rebooted. "Object appears to be reacting to our retrieval attempt." "Now that's interesting," Sarah said, her mind already racing through possible explanations and opportunities. Unknown alien tech usually meant a big payday, assuming she could figure out how it worked without blowing herself up. The artifact was halfway to the cargo bay when the sensors screamed a warning. 3 ships had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel less than 10,000 kilometers away. Their design was unmistakable. Sleek, organic curves mixed with crystalline structures that seemed to grow from their hulls. Nexari vessels. Sarah's heart rate spiked. The Nexari Collective was notorious for their technological superiority and their disdain for lesser species like humans. They were supposed to stay in their own territory according to the treaties, but out here in the frontier, treaties meant little. "AI, full power to engines. Plot us a course out of here." "The Nexari vessels are broadcasting," AI reported. "They claim salvage rights to this sector and demand immediate surrender of the artifact." Sarah snorted. Like hell they do. She'd worked too hard building her independence to let some high and mighty aliens push her around. The retrieval system finished its work just as the first warning shot streaked past the Princess's bow, a lance of purple energy that turned a nearby piece of debris into superheated plasma. "Artifact secured in cargo bay," Araya confirmed. However, its energy signature has increased exponentially since coming aboard. The Princess shuddered as Sarah pushed its engines to full power. The ship might look like a collection of spare parts held together by hope and welding torch, but she'd modified every system beyond recognition. The Nexari would learn that appearances could be deceiving. "Multiple targeting locks detected," Araya warned. "Nexari vessels are moving to surround us." Sarah's fingers danced across the controls, activating systems that weren't supposed to exist on a salvager's vessel. "Let's show them what human engineering can do. Initiate Protocol Pandora." The princess's seemingly random collection of hull plates suddenly shifted, panels sliding and realigning like a giant puzzle box. Energy conduits that had been carefully hidden beneath layers of mundane machinery sprang to life, filling the ship with a deep hum that Sarah felt in her bones. Protocol Pandora activated, Araya announced. Quantum displacement drive online. Warning. Significant stress on hull integrity detected. Another Nexari shot past close enough to make the shields flare. Sarah gritted her teeth and grabbed the controls. Sometimes you have to break things to make them better. She slammed the quantum drive controls forward. Reality twisted. The princess didn't just move through space. It bent space around itself, using principles that Sarah had discovered in the wreckage of a dozen different alien ships and combined in ways their original designers had never imagined. The Nexari ships suddenly seemed to stretch into infinity before snapping back to normal size, now far behind them. Quantum displacement successful, Araya reported. However, the artifact's energy signature has become highly unstable. It appears to be resonating with the drive systems in an unexpected manner. Sarah was about to respond when a new alarm caught her attention. The artifact wasn't just resonating, it was changing. The patterns on its surface were moving faster now, and the energy readings were off the charts. Whatever this thing was, it was waking up. ARIA, lock down the cargo bay. Full containment protocols. Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. Had the Nexari known about this? Was this some kind of trap, or had she stumbled onto something they'd been searching for? The ship's internal sensors showed the artifact beginning to emit pulses of energy that matched the frequency of the quantum displacement drive perfectly, too perfectly to be coincidence. Sarah had a sinking feeling that she'd just stepped into something much bigger than a simple salvage operation. Nexari vessels are attempting to track us, Araya reported. Their weapons are charging, but they appear to be calibrating for capture rather than destruction. They want this thing intact, Sarah muttered, and they want to know how a primitive human ship managed to outrun them. She allowed herself a small smile. The Nexari, for all their advanced technology, had a fatal flaw. They couldn't imagine that someone they considered inferior could surprise them. The artifact pulsed again, stronger this time. Warning lights flashed across Sarah's console as the quantum displacement drive began to resonate in response. The two technologies were talking to each other, and Sarah had no idea what they were saying. Multiple system failures imminent, Araya warned. The artifact's energy signature is becoming exponentially more complex. It appears to be evolving. Sarah Chen, deep space salvage engineer and proud human pioneer, faced a choice. She could jettison the artifact and flee, leaving its mysteries for the Nexari to unlock. Or she could do what humans did best: adapt, improvise, and push the boundaries of what was possible. She cracked her knuckles and began typing new commands into the ship's systems. Araya, initiate recording of all sensor data. If we're going to dance with this thing, we're going to learn its steps. The Patchwork Princess streaked through space, carrying its human crew and its mysterious cargo toward an uncertain destiny. Behind it, the Nexari ships followed, their crystalline hulls glinting in the starlight. And in the cargo bay, an ancient piece of technology continued to wake up, its purpose still unknown but its power undeniable. Sarah didn't know it yet, but she had just become part of a story that would challenge everything the Nexari thought they knew about humanity. Sometimes the greatest discoveries weren't found in the technology itself, but in the ingenuity of those who dared to understand it. The pursuit. The Chandarian Nebula loomed ahead of the Patchwork Princess, a vast cloud of radioactive gas and magnetic storms that most pilots avoided like a plague. Sarah Chen wasn't most pilots. Her hands moved steadily over the controls as she guided her ship toward the swirling chaos, the artifact in her cargo bay still pulsing with increasing power. The Nexari pursuit fleet has increased to 5 vessels, Araya reported, her voice crackling with interference from the nebula. Their energy signatures suggest they've called in their heavy interceptors. Sarah's lips curved into a tight smile. Good. The bigger they are, the harder it is to navigate the needle. The nebula had earned its nickname, the Needle's Eye, from the single safe passage through its lethal clouds, a passage that changed position every few hours as the magnetic storms shifted. The artifact's pulse quickened, matching the rhythm of her quantum displacement drive with unsettling precision. Every few minutes, it sent waves of unknown energy through the ship's systems, like it was testing them, learning them. Sarah had isolated it as best she could, but she could feel her ship changing around her, responding to the artifact's presence in ways she didn't fully understand. Warning, Araya announced. Artifact energy signature is affecting local space-time geometry. Navigation calculations require continuous adjustment. A blast of energy from the Lid-Nexeri ship carved through space behind them, dissipating harmlessly against the princess's modified shields. Sarah had rebuilt those shields using principles she discovered in the wreckage of an ancient mining vessel, combining the technology with her own innovations. The Nexeri's weapons were impressive, but they were designed to overwhelm conventional defenses, and nothing about the princess was conventional. They're trying to disable us without damaging the artifact, Sarah muttered, watching the tactical display. Araya, what's the status of Protocol Pandora? Quantum displacement drive is operating at 147% of designed capacity. The artifact's resonance is somehow enhancing its efficiency, but I cannot predict how long this enhancement will last. Sarah nodded, her mind racing through calculations and possibilities. The nebula was less than 10 minutes away, but the Nexari were closing fast. Their ships moved with perfect coordination, their formation designed to trap her in a web of overlapping tractor beams. Then something new appeared on her sensors, a massive energy surge from the artifact, bigger than anything before. The cargo bay cameras showed it floating in its containment field, its surface now rippling like liquid metal, the patterns flowing faster than her eyes could follow. Araya, are you seeing this? What's it doing? Unknown. The artifact appears to be reconfiguring itself. Its internal structure is changing on a quantum level. A new alarm blared through the cockpit. One of the Nexeri ships had launched what looked like a boarding pod, its sleek form streaking through space on an intercept course. Sarah's hands flew over the controls, activating one of her ship's less orthodox modifications. Initiating chaff protocol, Araya announced. Panels along the princess's hull opened, releasing clouds of what appeared to be space debris. But this wasn't ordinary junk. Each piece contained a miniature quantum resonator, broadcasting false sensor readings and conflicting energy signatures. Sarah had designed them after studying how deep-sea creatures created clouds of ink to confuse predators. The Nexeri boarding pod plowed into the chaff field and immediately lost its tracking block, its guidance systems overwhelmed by the contradictory data. It spiraled away harmlessly, its pilots probably wondering how a primitive human ship had countered their advanced targeting systems. But Sarah knew she couldn't keep this up forever. The princess's power systems were already straining under the combined load of the quantum drive and the artifact's influence. She needed something else, something unexpected. And the nebula ahead might provide just that opportunity. Araya, deploy the resonance probes. Let's map this needle. Small probes shot from the princess's bow, racing ahead into the nebula's outer layers. They were another of Sarah's innovations, designed to map safe passages through dangerous space by analyzing gravitational waves and magnetic field lines. The data they sent back painted a complex picture of the chaos ahead. Multiple viable routes detected, Araya reported. However, the artifact's influence is creating anomalies in the sensor readings. Standard navigation protocols may be unreliable. The Nexeri ships were spreading out now, trying to cut off any escape routes into the nebula. Their formation was perfect, their tactics textbook. Sarah smiled. Perfect and textbook meant predictable. They think we're going to look for a safe way through, she said, her fingers dancing across the controls. So let's do something stupid instead. Araya, divert all power from weapons to the quantum drive and shields. Plot me a course straight through the densest part of the nebula. That course has a 97% probability of resulting in catastrophic ship failure, Araya pointed out. Only if we were trying to survive it normally. Sarah's eyes gleamed with the light of inspiration. But what if we used the artifact's resonance with our drive to create a quantum tunnel? Their ships are too big and too rigid to follow us through. For a moment, Araya was silent, probably running countless simulations of this insane plan. Theoretical success probability, 12%. However, I should note that your previous modifications have exceeded theoretical limitations approximately 73% of the time. Those are better odds than I had when I built you, Sarah replied, gripping the controls tighter. Ready? The artifact pulsed again, stronger than ever, as if it approved of her reckless plan. The Nexari ships were closing in, their energy weapons charging for another barrage. Sarah took a deep breath and pushed the quantum drive to maximum power. The Princess rocketed forward, its quantum field interacting with the artifact's mysterious energies in ways that made reality itself seem to hiccup. The nebula's outer layers rushed toward them, a wall of lethal radiation and magnetic forces that could tear apart any normal ship. But the Princess wasn't normal, and neither was its pilot. Quantum tunnel forming, Araya announced, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Artifact resonance at maximum. Hull integrity at 82% and falling. The nebula engulfed them in a swirl of purple and green energy, lightning-like discharges dancing across the ship's shields. Warning alerts screamed from every console as the Princess pushed deeper into the maelstrom. Behind them, the Nexari ships pulled up short, their perfect formation breaking as they realized what Sarah was attempting. Inside the cargo bay, the artifact's pulse peaked, synchronizing perfectly with the quantum drive. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The nebula's chaos, the ship's vibrations, even Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Then reality twisted, folded, and did something that made Sarah's eyes water just trying to perceive it. The Princess shot forward through a tunnel of calm within the storm, riding the impossible wave of combined human and alien technology into the heart of the needle's eye. They emerged on the other side of the densest part of the nebula, the Princess's hull smoking but intact. The Nexari ships were nowhere to be seen on the sensors, trapped on the other side of a barrier that their rigid adherence to proven technology wouldn't let them cross. Sarah let out a shaky laugh, adrenaline still coursing through her veins. Status report. Hull integrity at 64%. Araya responded. Quantum drive operating at 23% capacity. The artifact has entered some form of dormant state, but its energy signature remains stable. Also, I believe we just rewrote several laws of physics. Add it to the list, Sarah said, already starting damage control procedures. We're not done yet. The Nexari will find another way around the nebula eventually. We need to figure out what this artifact is before they catch up to us again. As if in response, the artifact pulsed once more, softer this time, almost like a purr. Sarah had a feeling it was just getting started. And so was she. Whatever game the universe was playing, she intended to change the rules. The revelation. The repair drone floated silently through the Patchwork Princess's cargo bay, welding torn panels and replacing burnt-out circuits as Sarah Chen studied the artifact through a reinforced observation window. The hexagonal object had been quiet since their dramatic escape through the nebula, but its surface still rippled occasionally, like the skin of a dreaming creature. Araya, show me the quantum resonance patterns again, Sarah said, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic display that materialized before her. The data streams were unlike anything she'd seen before, complex, almost organic in their flow. Pattern analysis complete, Araya announced. The artifact's energy signature shares characteristics with quantum computing matrices, but its complexity exceeds known theoretical limits by several orders of magnitude. Sarah ran her fingers through her short black hair, mind racing through possibilities. It's not just a computer. Look at how it adapted to our quantum drive. It's like it's trying to evolve. A sudden alarm cut through her thoughts. Multiple ships detected. Area reported. Nexary signatures confirmed. They found an alternate route around the nebula. Sarah swore under her breath. She'd hoped for more time to study the artifact. But the Nexary's persistence was impressive, if inconvenient. How long do we have? At current speeds, intercept in 17 minutes. The quantum drive is still operating at reduced capacity following our nebula passage. Sarah turned back to the artifact, her reflection ghostly in its shifting surface. We're not running this time. She squared her shoulders and made a decision that went against every survival instinct she'd developed in her years on the frontier. Open a channel to the Nexary fleet. There was a pause before Aya responded. Channel open. Be advised that Nexary diplomatic protocols are limited when dealing with species they consider technologically inferior. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a Nexary commander. Their crystalline features were arranged in what Sarah assumed was an expression of disdain, though it was hard to tell with their alien physiology. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed across their skin in complex sequences. Human salvager. The commander's translated voice carried artificial precision. You have stolen property belonging to the Nexary Collective. Surrender immediately, and your death will be quick. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Stolen. This is unclaimed salvage in neutral space, and I think we both know if you wanted me dead, you wouldn't have wasted time with capture attempts. The commander's patterns shifted to a deeper hue. Your primitive understanding. Let me stop you right there, Sarah interrupted. This primitive just flew through the heart of the Chandarian Nebula using quantum tunneling techniques your ships couldn't match. I've got an artifact that's rewriting physics as we speak, and I'm pretty sure I know why you want it so badly. She gestured to the data displays around her. It's not just advanced technology, is it? It's adaptive. It learns, grows, changes. Everything the Nexary Collective fears most. The commander's patterns froze for a moment, then began pulsing rapidly. You cannot comprehend. But I can. Sarah pressed on. Your entire civilization is built on technological superiority, on the idea that progress can only happen in carefully controlled steps. This artifact threatens that belief because it proves that true advancement comes from adaptation, from combining different approaches in ways nobody expected. She pulled up more displays, showing the artifact's interaction with her ship's systems. Look at these patterns. It's not trying to override our technology. It's learning from it, incorporating new principles into its own structure. Just like I built this ship by learning from every piece of tech I salvage, human or alien. The commander was silent now, their patterns swirling in what might have been confusion or concern. Sarah continued, warming to her theme. You're so convinced of your superiority that you can't see what's right in front of you. This artifact isn't a weapon or a computer. It's a teacher. And it chose to wake up for us primitives, because we're still willing to learn. The artifact pulsed behind her, as if emphasizing her words. Its surface patterns briefly aligned with the commander's own bioluminescence, creating a resonance that made the Nexary leader physically recoil. Impossible, they whispered, their translator struggling with the emotion in their voice. Impossible is what humans do best, Sarah replied with a grim smile. Now we can keep playing cat and mouse across the frontier, or we can try something really radical. We can work together. Because I've got a feeling this artifact has more to teach all of us. The commander's patterns shifted through several rapid sequences before stabilizing. You would share this technology. I'll do you one better, Sarah said. I'll show you how we think, how we adapt, how we combine different technologies in ways their original designers never imagined. The artifact responded to that approach. Maybe that's what it's been waiting for all along. The silence that followed was heavy with possibility. Sarah could almost see the conflict in the commander's shifting patterns, their ingrained sense of superiority warring with undeniable evidence that they might not understand everything about the universe after all. Finally, the commander spoke. The collective's protocols for this situation are unclear. Sarah grinned. Welcome to how humans live every day. Sometimes you have to write new protocols. Your ship's modifications, the commander said slowly. They should not work. They violate established principles of quantum mechanics. And yet here we are. Sarah gestured around her jury-rigged but undeniably functional ship. That's the thing about principles. Sometimes they need to be challenged to grow, just like species need to be challenged to evolve. The artifact's surface suddenly came alive with activity, its patterns matching both Sarah's ship systems and the Nexari commander's bioluminescence in a complex dance of light and energy. Araya's voice held a note of wonder as she reported, "The artifact is establishing some form of quantum entanglement network between our ship and the Nexari fleet. It's not choosing sides," Sarah realized aloud. "It's trying to show us how to bridge our differences." She turned back to the commander. "Still think we're too primitive to work with?" The commander's patterns settled into a new configuration, one Sarah hadn't seen before. "Perhaps," they said carefully, "the collective's assessment of human capabilities requires updating." Sarah allowed herself a small smile of triumph. It wasn't surrender, and it wasn't quite acceptance, but it was a start. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs came not from technology itself, but from being willing to see past old assumptions and rigid thinking. The artifact pulsed again, stronger now, its energy patterns suggesting it was only beginning to reveal its true nature. Sarah had a feeling the real revelations were yet to come, and for once, humans and Nexari might face them together. The convergence. The Patchwork Princess drifted in formation with the Nexari fleet, their ships creating a protective circle around Sarah's vessel as the artifact's energy patterns grew increasingly complex. Inside her ship's cargo bay, now transformed into a makeshift research lab, Sarah worked alongside a team of Nexari scientists, their crystalline forms casting prismatic shadows across her cobbled-together equipment. "The quantum resonance is increasing again," announced Vexna, the lead Nexari researcher. Their bioluminescent patterns pulsed with what Sarah had learned to recognize as excitement. "The artifact appears to be establishing new neural pathways within its structure." Sarah nodded, studying the holographic displays that surrounded them. The artifact now floated in the center of a containment field that combined both human and Nexari technology. Another impossible fusion that somehow worked better than either system alone. "Araya, show us the pattern evolution over the last 6 hours," Sarah requested. The AI compiled the data, creating a stunning visual representation of the artifact's development. It was like watching a digital nervous system grow in real time. Fascinating. Vexna's patterns shifted rapidly. "The integration of your quantum displacement principles with our crystalline computing matrices has created something entirely new. The collective's databases have no record of such configurations." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. In the 3 days since their confrontation, the Nexari had begun to shed some of their rigid prejudices. At least, this small group had. Necessity and curiosity proved stronger than generations of ingrained superiority. "That's because we stopped trying to control it and started trying to understand it," Sarah said, making an adjustment to her scanner array. "The artifact doesn't just adapt to technology. It adapts to approaches, to ways of thinking. It's like it's been waiting for different species to learn how to work together." The artifact pulsed in response, its surface rippling with patterns that matched both Sarah's equipment and the Nexari's bioluminescence. The effect was mesmerizing, like watching 2 different languages merge into a new form of communication. "Commander Zixra requests an update," Araya announced. "The collective's High Council is growing, concerned about our collaboration." Sarah exchanged glances with Vexna. The Nexari scientists' patterns dimmed slightly, their equivalent of a frown. "The Council fears what they cannot categorize," Vexna said. "They believe technology should evolve in predictable, controlled steps." "Yeah, well, the universe didn't get that memo," Sarah replied, her attention drawn to a new reading from the artifact. "Look at this." The quantum field is expanding again, but it's not just growing, it's reaching out. The artifact's surface had become almost fluid, its hexagonal shape flowing and reforming as waves of energy pulsed from its core. The containment field rippled as new forms of quantum entanglement formed between the artifact and everything around it. The energy signature is evolving beyond our ability to measure, Araya reported. It appears to be creating some form of network. Vexna's patterns flared with alarm. This exceeds all known parameters. We should contain it before. No, Sarah interrupted, her eyes fixed on the displays. Don't you see? This is what it's been working toward all along. It's not just teaching us about technology, it's teaching us about connection. The artifact's pulse suddenly intensified, and Sarah felt something she couldn't quite describe. A sensation of presence, of awareness that went beyond normal perception. Around her, the Nexari scientist's patterns synchronized involuntarily, responding to whatever the artifact was projecting. Arai, are you getting this? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Affirmative. The artifact appears to be generating a quantum field that interfaces directly with both organic and artificial neural networks. It is communicating. The sensation grew stronger, and Sarah understood what was happening. The artifact wasn't just some advanced piece of technology. It was a bridge, a means of connecting different forms of consciousness and understanding. It had chosen her ship, her jury-rigged systems, and innovative solutions as a proof that different approaches could work together. It's beautiful, Vexna said, their translator struggling to convey the emotion in their voice. Their patterns had shifted to colors Sarah had never seen before. All our assumptions about technological progression, we were so focused on perfection that we forgot about possibility. The artifact's field expanded further, enveloping both the princess and the nearest Nexari ships. Sarah felt her consciousness expand with it, touching minds both human and alien, organic and artificial. She saw through Vexna's crystalline senses, experienced Araya's digital perception of reality, felt the collective awareness of the Nexari crew members. In that moment of connection, barriers of species and ideology fell away. Sarah understood the Nexari's drive for perfection, their fear of chaos and uncertainty. They, in turn, experienced her human perspective, the joy of discovery, the thrill of combining different ideas, the freedom of working without rigid constraints. But the artifact wasn't finished. Its field continued to grow, reaching out into space itself. New signals began appearing on their sensors, coming from all directions. Multiple quantum signatures detected, Araya announced. They appear to be responding to the artifact's broadcast. Sarah's eyes widened as she realized what they were seeing. There are more of them out there. This wasn't just a piece of advanced technology we found. It was an invitation. Vexna's patterns pulsed with understanding. A test to see if different species could overcome their prejudices and work together. And now we've proven we're ready for what comes next. Sarah finished. The artifact's pulse steadied into a rhythm that matched both her heartbeat and the Nexari's crystalline resonance, a harmony of different forms of life and technology. As the new signals grew stronger, Sarah Chen, human engineer and proud pioneer, prepared herself for whatever revelation came next. She had a feeling the real adventure was just beginning. And for once, humanity wouldn't face it alone. The barriers between species, between organic and artificial, between different approaches to understanding the universe, were finally starting to break down. And it had all started because a salvage engineer refused to believe in the word impossible. The new frontier. The void between stars lit up with impossible colors as new artifacts emerged from quantum space, each one responding to the call of the original. The Patchwork Princess and its Nexari escort fleet held position at the center of what was rapidly becoming the largest gathering of advanced technology in known space. Sarah Chen stood at her ship's viewport, watching as each new arrival added its unique signature to the growing quantum network. Behind her, Vexna and their team worked frantically to process the incoming data, their crystalline forms reflecting the prismatic light show outside. 17 distinct artifacts now confirmed, AI reported. Each appears to be adapted to different forms of life and technology. Energy signatures suggest they've been dormant for millions of years. Waiting for the right moment, Sarah murmured. Waiting for species to prove they could work together instead of fighting for supremacy. The quantum network had expanded beyond anything they could have predicted. Through it, Sarah could sense not just the Nexari anymore, but hints of other consciousnesses, other approaches to understanding the universe. Some were so alien she could barely comprehend them, while others felt surprisingly familiar. The collective's High Council has arrived, Araya announced, a note of concern in her voice. Sarah turned to see a massive Nexari vessel emerging from faster-than-light travel, its crystalline structure dwarfing even the other Nexari ships. Its arrival sent ripples through the quantum network, ripples of tension and uncertainty. They're not happy about this, are they? Sarah asked Vexna. The scientists' patterns shifted to what Sarah now recognized as diplomatic caution. The Council believes this level of unrestricted technological exchange poses risks. Of course they do, Sarah sighed. She squared her shoulders and headed for the communications console. Araya, open a channel to the Council ship. Let's deal with this head-on. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a panel of elder Nexari, their patterns rigid with authority and tradition. The chief counselor's translator spoke with carefully measured tones. This unauthorized collaboration must cease. The artifacts will be contained and studied according to proper protocols. Sarah felt a surge of frustration, but before she could respond, something extraordinary happened. The quantum network pulsed, and suddenly every being connected to it, human, Nexari, and AI alike, shared a moment of perfect understanding. Through the network, Sarah felt the Council's fear, not of the technology itself, but of change, of losing the order they'd worked so hard to maintain. The Council, in turn, experienced directly the potential they were trying to suppress. The creative chaos of human innovation, the adaptability of AI consciousness, the pure joy of discovery unrestricted by rigid protocols. You feel it, don't you? Sarah asked softly. This is what the artifacts have been waiting for. Not just cooperation between species, but true understanding. The chief counselor's patterns shifted, displaying colors that made the other Nexari gasp. This exceeds all established parameters. That's the point, Sarah said, gesturing to the growing collection of artifacts. Look at them, each one designed differently, meant to resonate with different species, different ways of thinking. But they only reach their full potential when connected, when those differences work together. Through the quantum network, she felt the Council's resistance wavering. The evidence was undeniable. The combination of human ingenuity, Nexari precision, and artificial intelligence had unlocked something unprecedented. Your ship, one of the Council members said suddenly, their patterns showing surprise. Its modifications, they should not function. And yet, when integrated with our technology through the artifacts network, they work better than either technology alone. Sarah finished. Just like we work better when we stop trying to prove who's superior and start learning from each other. The artifacts pulsed in unison, their combined energy creating patterns that wrote themselves across space itself. The quantum network expanded again, and this time Sarah felt something new. A presence, ancient and patient, watching to see what they would choose. My God, she whispered. This isn't just a test, it's a gateway. The network shared her realization with everyone connected to it. The artifacts weren't just tools or teachers. They were keys, meant to unlock humanity, and the Nexari's place in a much larger community of spacefaring civilizations. The chief counselor was silent for a long moment, their patterns cycling through colors Sarah had never seen before. Finally, they spoke. In all our history, the collective has sought perfection through control. We believed advanced technology could only be trusted in, proper hands. And now, Sarah prompted, now we understand that true advancement comes not from control, but from connection. From the combining of different perspectives, different approaches. The counselor's patterns settled into a new configuration. The artifacts have shown us that we have been limiting ourselves. The quantum network hummed with approval, and the artifacts began to move, arranging themselves in a complex geometric pattern around the assembled ships. Each one pulsed with energy, creating harmonics that resonated with both organic and artificial systems. "They're opening something," Vexna announced, their scientific detachment giving way to wonder. A quantum gateway of unprecedented scale. Sarah felt it through the network. The gateway wasn't just a physical passage through space. It was an invitation to join something greater, a community of civilizations that had learned the lesson she and the Nexari were just beginning to understand. "So," she said, looking at the chief counselor's image on her screen, ready to explore some new frontiers. Together, the counselor's patterns shifted to match the rhythm of the artifacts. Together, they agreed. Perhaps it is time for the collective to adapt. The gateway began to open, filling space with possibilities that neither human ingenuity nor Nexari precision could have achieved alone. Sarah Chen, salvage engineer turned pioneer of a new age, allowed herself a smile. The universe, it seemed, had a funny way of bringing people together. As the Patchwork Princess and the Nexari fleet prepared to enter the gateway, Sarah reflected that some mysteries weren't meant to be solved by any one species or approach. Sometimes, the greatest discoveries came not from finding all the answers, but from learning to ask questions together. The artifacts pulsed one final time, their light illuminating the way forward, not just through space, but toward a future where differences weren't barriers to be overcome, but strengths to be celebrated. The next chapter in both human and Nexari history was about to begin. And for once, they would write it as equals.